Hello everyone, this is George Sawtooth. I'm at the Elmwood Cemetery here in Brighton, Colorado. And I did a video previously a few months ago when it was hot, and it's still hot. Red Barker, Ma Baker. Hear that song by Boney M, Ma Baker, but the name was actually Barker. But anyway, he's buried over here. Red Barker's buried over here in an unmarked grave. But Boney M, I love that old group from the late 70s, early 80s. They were kind of a disco group. But I'm going to do another artist here. He was from the big band era. And just here, the wind is kind of chilly a little bit. It's been so hot. Yesterday was 90 degrees here in Colorado, in Denver area. It was well over 90 degrees. I think they said that was like the latest 90-degree temperature ever recorded in Colorado at such a late time of the year. But I want to talk about Harry Lawrence Tiny Hill. He was 365 pounds. He was a singer back in the old days. He was born in 1906, died in 1971. He was an American big band leader, and right about the time of Glenn Miller and Tommy Dorsey. And Glenn Miller, I grew up in Fort Morgan, Colorado, and I graduated from the Fort Morgan High School, and their auditorium is named after Glenn Miller. It's called the Glenn Miller Auditorium, and because Glenn Miller actually grew up in Fort Morgan, Colorado, during his teenage years. But and I love Tommy Dorsey too. I love the big band era, and I love all different types of music. I love doo-wop. In the 1950s, the big band kind of gave over to doo-wop, and I love doo-wop. God, that's such great music. Anyway, during the height of his career, Hill was America's biggest band leader, and not because of how popular he was. It was more about his size, 365 pounds. Here he is, Harry Hill, Tiny Hill. Isn't that amazing how you get this nickname, Tiny? Like big fat guys get tiny, or big tall guys get shorty. So what are little short guys? Are they called Tolly? Anyway, this is his third wife. He was married 3 times, and he played different instruments. Drums. He was a drummer. He was born in Illinois. His parents were William Fred Hill and Osa Crowdson Alt. His parents separated when he was 7 years old, and he went to live with his aunt. He was active in high school sports, was president of his senior class. He graduated from Sullivan High School in 1924. Hill then attended Illinois State Normal School for 2 years. Financial difficulties forced him to leave college to work. He went to Detroit, where he worked in a produce warehouse. After a series of short-term jobs, he ended up driving a team of mules. Wouldn't that be an interesting job? For the Midwest Canning Company in Rochelle, Illinois. His first band was called the Fat Man's Band. Now, why would they call such a skinny guy 300? Why would they call it the Fat Man's Band? That's very mysterious. I don't know. At 320 pounds, where I am right now, would I be part of the Fat Man's Band, or I think I'd be part of the Skinny Band. Then he joined the Dunbar Band after the Fat Man's Band and sang and played drums. He left that band after a year, and he took a lot of those band members and they played at Dixieland Jazz and hillbilly music. This was around 1937. Isn't it a beautiful day? Do you hear that bird? Gorgeous day. Here I am hanging out in a graveyard in a cemetery, and it's almost Halloween. To tell you the truth, I'd rather be in the cemetery than on that road over there with those crazy drivers from California. All those transplants from California. In 1944, Tiny Hill was on the cover of Billboard magazine. In 1945, he worked as a folk music director at Mercury Records, but resigned 3 years later in 1948. There's a beautiful juniper tree here. He continued to perform in the 1950s in the big band era, where in the 1950s it finally ended the big band era. He made 95 recordings on 6 different labels. In 1951, he had a hit single called Hot Rod Race. He was married 3 times, like I mentioned before. He was a glutton for punishment, I guess. In 1950, he bought a dairy farm up in Fort Lupton, or Fort Lupton is a town just up this way. Has a very interesting history itself, Fort Lupton. Brighton has an interesting history too. And by the way, I stopped by the Arby's up the road here, and I asked that lady, I said, hey, when was this, how old is this Arby's? When was it established? That's because I kind of have a fetish for history. And she says, I don't know. She says, what do you care? I said, I don't know. I just interested in things like that. Aren't you ever interested in things when things start? I guess I have a fetish for that kind of stuff. But he bought a dairy farm in Fort Lupton, lived in Colorado while not on the road. Fast cars were his hobby. Another hobby was he loved cooking. So at 365 pounds, I can sure why. I bet you he was a good cook. In 1956, he opened a radio station here in Brighton, KHIL. And then today, that station, back then the frequency was 800 in 1956, but now it's 810 frequency, and it's called KLVZ, and then they broadcast all oldies music, which I love to listen to while I fold clothes at home. In the 1950s, he logged 40 to 60,000 miles per year of touring the USA. Can you imagine touring the USA in the 1950s? Each year, 40 to 60,000 miles per year. God, that is a lot. I don't think I couldn't handle that many miles. He continued to play music in the Denver and Brighton area until his death in 1971. His last performance was sold out performance in Emden, Illinois, July 17th, 1971. And he died December 13th, 1971, just a few months later, almost to the day of that final concert. Isn't that interesting? All right, Harry Hill. Another interesting history of Colorado. Big band era guy. Big guy, fat guy, liked to sing, played drums. I think he played banjo. God bless you, Harry Hill. Thank you for contributing to this world. All right, God bless. Jesus saves. Bye, everyone. Take care.